Alright guys, so we're going to understand this class opener. We have three functions given to us, f of x, g of x, h of x. And down here, they're telling us to plug in 5 into the g of x function. In other words, you're going to plug in 5, and where do we plug in 5? What are the inputs? The x values, correct? So we're going to take that 5 and put it into the x values of the g of x piecewise function. However, when you look at your g of x piecewise function, it has three pieces to it. Top piece, middle piece, bottom piece, right? And where are we going to plug in the 5? Well, it depends on your domain values of each piece, on your restriction of each piece. It says you're going to use the top piece, the negative x, if x is less than negative 1. So what are we trying to plug in on number 1? 5. Is 5 less than negative 1? No. So you cannot use this top piece. Is 5 between negative 1 and positive 1? No. So you cannot use the second piece. Is 5 greater than 1? Yes. So you're going to plug it into this. Now, remember, this bottom one, it's like if it said y equals x. So you're going to plug it into that. So when you plug in 5 into that, what's your answer going to be? It's just going to be 5. Let me erase that so we don't get all messy. So the answer number 1, g of 5, is 5. Let's try to plug in g of 1. Okay, so we're going to go to the g of x function again. Where does 1 land? Is 1 less than negative 1? No, so you're not going to use this one. Is 1 greater than negative 1 or less than or equal to 1? Yes, it's less than or it's equal to 1. So 1 would fall right here. It wouldn't fall over here because 1 is not greater than 1. So you know you're going to be using this middle one right here. Now, what is that middle function really? It looks like y equals what? 0, right? That's all you see. So when you plug in 1 into there for the x, there is no x. So if you're looking at that middle one, you know for a fact that the answer is 0. Y is going to equal 0 no matter what. So when you think of plugging in 1, but there's nothing to plug it into in this one because of this domain, you know you're going to be using this one. You can't plug it in anything, so the answer is just 0. Let's move on to g of 0. Let's take this g function and plug in 0. Where am I going to plug in 0? Is 0 less than negative 1? No, it's not. Is 0 in between negative 1 and positive 1? Yeah, it is. So again, you're going to use this function, but it's not even a function. It's just an answer. It's kind of like saying, oh, I need to use this. This is my answer. So what's my answer going to be? 0. F of 0. Okay, we're switching up functions. We're not on the g of x anymore. We're on f of x. And we want to plug in 0. Now, where do we plug in 0? Do we plug it into the top one or the bottom one? Is 0 less than 2? Is 0 greater than or equal to 2? No. So for sure you have to use the top one. Why? Because it tells you if your x value is less than 2, you're going to use the top one. If your x value is greater than or equal to 2, you're going to use the bottom one. So number 4, it says f of 0. 0 is less than 2, so we're going to use this top one. So what's the answer going to be? That's like if you had the equation y equals 2 times x, and you're going to plug in a 0, so that's going to be y equals 2 times 0, which is 0. So the answer is 0 over here for that one also. Let me erase this up here. Of course, you could watch this later on Edmodo. You could pause it, rewind it, watch as many times as you want. Moving on, number 5, h of negative 8. Okay, so we're going to go to the h function, and we're going to plug in negative 8. This one's not even a piecewise function. It's just an absolute value function. So let's just plug in negative 8. And when you plug in negative 8 right here, what do you get? Negative 8 plus 1. Negative 7. And what's the absolute value of negative 7? 7. So the answer is 7. Whoa, wrong one. Right there. So the answer is 7 for h of negative 8. How about number 6? F of 5. We're going to go back to f, and we're going to plug in 5. Where do I plug in 5? Is 5 less than 2? Is 5 greater than or equal to 2? Yes. So we're going to use this bottom one this time. It's kind of like if you had y equals x minus 1, and we're going to plug in 5 right into here. So it's really going to be a 5 take away 1, which is what? 4. So the answer is 4. Sorry about this mess. Let me erase it. So the answer is 4. And once again, we know that we're plugging in the bottom one because 5 is greater than or equal to 2, so we use this bottom one. And 5 take away 1 is 4. So the answer to that one is 4. The last one, g of negative 3. So we're going to use the g function once again, the piecewise function. Where do we plug it in? Negative 3, is it less than negative 1? Yes. Is negative 3 between negative 1 and positive 1? No. Is negative 3 greater than 1? No. So we have to use the top one. So we're going to plug in negative 3 into this function. Once again, it's like if it was the function y equals negative x. And I want to plug in the negative 3, so it's going to be y equals negative parentheses. And plug in that negative 3 inside there. And what do we end up with? Positive 3. So the answer is positive 3. How do you guys feel about this? Yes? What do you guys like? This is my idea. I want to throw in a good 6 or 7 questions as the beginning of the quiz this Friday to bump up your score. So I would go back and make sure you really understand about where your input's going to land. Am I using this top one? It depends if your number is less than negative 1. Am I using the middle one, which the answer would just be 0? Only if your number is between negative 1 and 1. Or actually including negative 1 and 1 because of the or equal to. Are you going to be using this x to plug it in? That's only if your x values are greater than 1. So understand that and you'll be good with a good 30% of the quiz, right? Because, I mean, in reality, we're only going to have a max of like 20 questions. So a good 7 points are going to be coming from there. Let's look at domain and range. And notice I didn't put piecewise functions. I just put one piece of a line. Okay, so number 8, what is the domain of this piece? I want to put D, and then I want to put X. Why X? Because domain are your X values. And if you understand that, you got to look at your X-axis. There's an X right here. You're looking at this X-axis. And is this line anywhere at the X value of 1? No. 2? No. 3? No. 0? No. Negative 1? No. Negative 2? Yes. Negative 3? Yes. Negative 4? Yes. Negative 5? Yes. And it keeps going forever to the left, doesn't it? So what do we know about this thing? It's kind of like if you... This is the X value of negative 2 right here. So this line is on the left side or the right side of negative 2? It's on the left side. So this line is what? Less than negative 2. So X is less than negative 2. When you're thinking about the X values at negative 2, it's to the left. It's less. If it were to the right, it would be greater. Not only that, another important thing to recognize is that this is an open circle. So you're not going to put a solid line underneath your inequality. You're just going to leave it as less than. How about number 9? What is... Oh, wait a minute. We forgot the range, huh? Sorry about that. So we have domain there. Let's go with range. Range are going to be your Y values. Now, what would your range be on this thing? Let's look at the Y axis, which is running up and down. Here's the Y value of 0, the altitude 0. Here's the altitude negative 1, the Y value of negative 1. Y value of negative 2, Y value of negative 3. Is this graph up here at the altitude negative 3 on Y? No. Is it at negative 2? No. Is it at negative 1? 0? 1? Yeah, so it's at Y equals 1. Is it at Y equals 2? Yes. Y equals 3? Yes. Y equals 4? Yes, because this thing continues to go up forever. It goes up forever. So what I'm trying to say is, if I were to see where it starts in terms of the Y, that's the level Y equals 1. But we're not talking about Y equals 1. We're talking about all the values that are above the Y equals 1. So what do I say? Y has to be what? Greater than 1. And once again, there's an open dot here, which makes it just greater than. If it were a solid dot, it would be greater than or equal to. Does this make sense to you guys? Yes. So let's move on to number 9. What is the domain of this guy? We're talking about X values. Now, check it out. I'm just going to draw a line right here because that's the X value of negative 3. Now, we all see that this line, with regards to X, is on this side of it, right? It's on the right side, not on the left side. It's on the right side. So this line right here, since it's on the right side, I know that all the x values of this line, has to be what? Greater than. Now, in this case, it is a solid dot, so it'd be greater than or equal to what? -3. Now, how about the range? Let's go range. Let's go the y values. Now, on the y-axis, here's the y value of 0, y value of 1, 2, 3. But where does this line start at in terms of y values? Does it start up here? No, it does not. Start at 0? No, it does not. It starts right here. What level is that? That's -2. So it starts right here. That's the y value -2 on y. So what do we know about this line? Is it above -2 or is it below -2? Below. So we know that the y values of this line have to be below -2. So what is your range? Y is less than or equal to -2. Moving on. Number 10. Domain. Domain are your x values, so I put an x. What are your domain values here? Well, if you look at your x-axis, which is this guy right here, and you look at the level at the x-axis where this line is at, well, it's right here, right? What level is that? That's like a 2 right there, right? The level 2. So what do we know about this line that is here at the x value of 2 and it's on the left side of it? X is what? Less than 2. Man, am I losing you guys or what? Okay, what about the range? The range, we're talking about y values. Y is what? Greater than -3. Okay, because here's your y value of -3, and this whole line will all be above. It'll never be below. It'll always be above -3 on the y. Okay, now sometimes, let me switch it up here, give you a totally separate example. Sometimes I'll have a line that, let's say it starts right here, and it goes in that direction, and it's perfectly on the flat line of y equals 3, right? So in that case, the domain would be x, and I'm talking about this guy right here, okay? What would the domain be of that guy? X is what? Well, let's think about this. It looks like it's starting here and it's going that way forever. So it's not all real numbers because left and right would be all real numbers. But if it just starts here and goes that way, what is your domain? X has to be greater than what? 1. So x is greater than 1. How about the range of this guy? Now I'm talking about y values. So y values are up and down. Does this thing ever go up or down, or does it always stay at the y value of 3? Always stays at the y value of 3, so that would be y equals 3. So sometimes you just have one single value for it. Make sense? And that could have been with another line, like let's say if I had a line right here going straight down, then you'd only have a single value for x. And your range would be y is less than 4 in this case, because here's 4, less than, and your x value would be only x equals -4. I hope this is making sense. I want to pause it right there and pick it up on another video.